How did you study for economics?
Okay. I quite enjoyed economics because it was a completely new subject. It was the science of business, and I thought it was pretty cool you'd be doing a subject that will teach you to make money one day. I quite like that. That's probably emblematic of some strange personality traits, but anyway, no, it's a good subject because everyone's on a level playing field. My advice would be actually for a lot of students, if they don't know what to pick economics, because a lot of people haven't done before. It's a level playing field, and of course the scaling is good, so that's an added bonus on top, and plus it's an interesting subject. But coming back to your question, the way I study for economics is I had a weekly subscription to The Economist.
Right.
And that's really what economics is about. They call it the dismal science for a reason. It's the dismal science because the conditions, economic conditions and assumptions are always changing. It's a social science that is in constant flux, and what that means is the people who are the best economists are the ones who can relate it to the modern world on a constant basis. And I think what helped me, I was quite surprised at how well I performed in economics. I think what helped me in relation to other students is I had a really strong understanding of economics in its current context. I read the paper every day. I read The Economist every week. I had a real attention to contemporary economic issues, and I weaved those into my essay, and I felt that really differentiated me from the other students. Because I think that's what they had in mind when they were designing the course, to allow you to understand the commercial world as it exists.
Yeah.
So that was many similar skills in terms of saying my notes aloud and everything, like
so you write the notes, say them loud.
But that was the major point of difference, that I would try and keep abreast of current news as possible.
Did you, on a regular basis, then integrate what you were reading from, say, The Economist about contemporary events into your notes?
Yep.
So what you'd say, let's say.
Okay, so I'll give you an example. Like, there's one dot point that asks you to talk about the globalization of financial markets. I don't think you can talk about the globalization of financial markets with any sort of authority unless you talk about the global financial crisis, have a general idea how it happened, and then maybe a couple of key statistics here and there saying, I guess, attesting to the limits of financial globalization, little things like that. When you're talking about labour laws, obviously you need to have a pretty good understanding of what's currently happening with the labour regulations and whatnot, what the couple of current governments put in fiscal policy, obviously. I think if you're an economics student and you don't watch Budget Night on TV and the ABC, you're kidding yourself, as boring as that may sound. Things like that. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
There's a section on fiscal policy. You should also have all the current stats to back it up. And I think most teachers do that anyway, but it's a case of going out there and having a genuine interest in it, I guess, and trying to find what you think is an interesting angle yourself.
Yeah, okay. And so you're integrating it in your notes.
Yeah.
So as you're reading it, you're saying, hey, wait a minute, this connects to what I studied.
Absolutely.
For this topic, say globalisation or Australia and the global economy, whatever it may be. And then you're speaking it out loud, for mirror, in terms of a way to learn it and memorise it. Then what are you doing for economics? You're doing practice papers, past papers in terms of essays. What did you then do?
The danger with economics is it's a little bit like chemistry in that you can be really good at the subject but just completely bomb out because you don't know how to sit the actual paper. It is actually quite a difficult paper relative to the other subjects I did. I would practice lots of multiple choice, which I think you can get online at the board website, whatever it is. Lots of multiple choice. They were quite tricky multiple choice, and it was really a case of going through doing as many as possible. And you found the more you did, and they do come up. They repeat questions all the time. The more you did, the better you got at them. The part I found really tricky, and I remember in our trials we would just get smashed, and there would be marks 30 out of 40, 28 out of 40, and they would be the best marks in the class, were the short answers. Because in economics, the way it's marked is if you don't hit the nail on the head, they won't give you the marks. And they've got this strange aversion to the fact that if you write over the lines, they just won't mark it. They want you to stay in the line. So in addition to actually developing small handwriting, you need to be able to be as concise as possible. I mean, it's the subject that studies how to be efficient. They want you to write efficiently as well, which makes sense in hindsight. But I would practice heaps and heaps of short answer questions. Every Friday we would have quiz day in class. We would just do short answer questions because they required it was a real skill that you had to acquire. But if anything, my advice to economics students would be to practice that skill. It actually has application to other subjects. I mean, writing concise in one subject often, it helps you in other subjects as well. But in economics in particular, if you don't get to the point, they're just looking for an excuse to nail you, I found.
So
the painful way.
Yeah. So then your suggestion would be to do loads and loads of short answer questions and have them marked
in particular, absolutely.
And get feedback. So I mean, I gather you would get feedback each week because you're doing it in class with your teacher.
Sure. And we would just get better and better as a case of practicing, and we found that in addition to mastering the content every week, because you were applying it to an exam situation, doing short answer questions had a measurable benefit for my other essay writing subjects as well.
Okay, and what about the essays for economics? Did you do sort of practice essays throughout the year, or was it again more just a matter of really immersing yourself in learning the content?
A combination of both. Do occasional practice essays, because once again they are marked quite rigorously. That was my understanding of it. Our top marks would only be 17 out of 20 for the trial, which is not bad, but admittedly not great either. So do lots of practice essays throughout the year, but in the lead up, just make sure you have a broad understanding, because you'll find that the economics essays, as of late, my experience was that they were quite specific. And if you didn't have a good understanding of all the content, you were in real trouble when they asked you a question on changes in global financial markets, and everyone would really struggle with that, or in particular environmental questions, which was that part of the course that a lot of economics students would ignore because they didn't really think it was economics. When that comes up on the paper, they have really, really powerful regrets. So, I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, so it was a matter of doing essays, but still really focusing on that really specific understanding.
Yeah.